I've got a few minutes. I'm going to take this from the perspective of my experience as a recently elected parliamentarian in July of last year. Some of you may know, was elected very strongly on my campaign for pro-peace, for pro-humanity, and some people call it pro-Gaza. But I'm going to take this as an individual who generally is an optimist, but sprinkled with pragmatism or realism. But 8 months into the role, I'm now unfortunately a realist, but I still have a sprinkling of optimism in me. So I'm going to take it from that perspective. So first, let's take this into three parts. One is the moral, second is the political, and the thirdly is the judicial. And from my experience, morally, I genuinely feel that the political class and the political ruling class, I should say, have lost the moral compass completely. It's broken. It's incredulous that we are witnessing in real time killing of the most innocent, which is children. And yet in Parliament, it seems to not even move. So I hope I secured a debate on Tuesday on Britain's complicity or Britain's collaboration with Israel military, and this was the night, the day preceding the massacre of the 400 people in the tents, a majority of whom were children, and the most severe sentiment that was expressed from a conventional politician who has been pro-Israeli was, this is a little bit concerning. So to see the killing of so many children and innocent men, women, and children, unprovoked, breaking of the ceasefire, and we'll come to that later because I don't think it's a breaking of the ceasefire because I don't think the ceasefire ever existed. I think we have lost the moral compass, and that's the realism and the pragmatism, unfortunately, we face. But the positivity is exactly as Professor Stephen Zoon alluded to, is still in our hundreds, in our thousands, and in our hundreds of thousands. People are taking to the streets every week for the past 18 months. Students across the globe have shown what is possible with their encampment, and today I will be hosting an iftari with Palestinian students that we've managed to bring over to our city of Leicester via the Leicester University. And that was a result, I think, somewhat to the encampment that the students of my city did. So, yes, the moral dial of the political class, it's just beyond words, and I think everybody will probably share in that sentiment. But there is still hope. The people of this country, despite the negativity and the biased media, are still know what the truth is and supporting the cause. Secondly, quickly politically, it goes on from the first point that I made, is that the political reaction to this tragedy has been a unique case study, I think, in our history, and there's more learned people here which will point to, that we were very slow in the uptake in the Rwandan genocide and other genocides. But this is a particular support, a unilateral support, I think politically has been extremely concerning. But my election, the election of three of my colleagues, has shown that people who are extremely angry about this have, at the end of the day, chosen democracy to voice their concern. With my election, I overturned a 22,500 majority as an independent for somebody who doesn't come from a political background. And my colleagues similarly, and other MPs who lost their seats because of the situation in Gaza, is a little light in this very, very dark period, that people are now utilizing everything in their resource to make their sentiments felt. And politically, people have taken the route of democracy to show those in power that, look, we will oust you. I'm obviously speaking uniquely to England and Great Britain, and there are strong voices within the political spectrum. And very recently, there has been a turn on the tide, especially after a recent visit by parliamentarians to Israel, and the way they were treated. Traditional conservative voters are now talking about West Bank settlers, extremist West Bank settlers, and how that has completely changed their perception of this conflict as a whole. So that, again, with the pragmatism and the realism, is a little bit of hope. And finally, with a little bit of time, and unfortunately in this one, is rather depressing, and that's a judicial. Despite all the evidence, despite eyewitnesses, despite every humanitarian organization, despite the ICC and the ICJ, we have in the UK, Mr. Lammy, who is our Foreign Secretary, whom I personally yesterday laid down everything that we know, still wouldn't accept that the genocide was being committed or war crimes were being committed. And despite the consequences of this, because we as a nation were the architects of the global order that we live in today. And I think this is a moment where, again, with what Professor said before me, we may be also the architects of its destruction. And that, for me, is a very, very bleak prospect.